Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco. Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here to continue or to finish up my 2022 movies catch up. And it's funny because right as I'm doing this, Red Letter Media also posted their video. And so that's where I got this idea from. I think that it's a great idea to just, watch a bunch of movies that you didn't get to reviewing and then review them all at once. So I already reviewed those 4 movies yesterday. And when it got to Doctor Death, I was already starting to feel a lot better, just in terms of everything. But it went away really slowly, just like with the 2018 cottonmouth virus. It went away super slowly, like everything from the coughing to the sniffling and the nose stuff. So, Doctor Death, I was not excited about this movie based on the past couple of Puppet Master movies. Full Moon has become kind of a joke in terms of their Puppet Master series. Everyone basically talks about how the Puppet Master movies used to be really, really good, and now they're just, ugh. They've gotten so bad. They've gotten so poor and stripped down and bare, and it feels like a shell of what it used to be. These movies, they never felt like massively budgeted movies, but now looking back, it feels like they either had a lot more money or they just put a lot more effort into making these movies. And I think it's a little bit of both. It always kind of depresses me and surprises me that companies like Full Moon or Troma, like they're really quote unquote successful, but they keep on making movies at the same budget level, at the same, low budget quality. They never really graduate up to medium quality and then, full on Hollywood quality. They just always stay at this like small level where they don't really take many chances. They don't really have much to they don't they don't have much to show off, and it really comes across in these movies, like especially Blade the Iron Cross, where most of the movie Blade was hardly in it, even though you have his name on the title. Most of the movie was these stupid characters that nobody cares about, and the story was so irrelevant and just meaningless, and it was like they were purposefully using the World War II setting because it was easier to get the wardrobe, it was easier to get to fake this time period and make it look like a high school play. It was very, very bad. And I was not looking forward to this, which is surprising because when I was a kid, Doctor Death, the Retro Puppet Master series, they were my favorite. It was just one movie, I know. But I always felt like the Retro Puppet Master series should have continued, even though I know probably it wouldn't have been the greatest series. I always felt like it was a great movie, and it was one of the few PG or PG-13 horror movies that I wasn't ashamed of watching. Usually whenever I was given a PG-13 or a PG horror movie, I'd throw it in the trash and say, F off with that, I'm not watching that. I want to watch an R-rated horror movie, and I know that sounds mean, but it is what it is. Like when you watch a horror movie, you want to watch something that's rated R. unless it's from like back then, when the ratings were really not accurate, and they're still not really accurate. And for instance, like a movie like Peeping Tom, that's quote unquote not rated or whatever. Obviously nowadays they probably consider that like an R-rated or PG-13. So I always really liked Retro Puppet Master though, and it's funny because this character, he's the last one that I would have expected them to make a movie about. I would have much more expected them to make a movie about, even just about Toulon, like about young Toulon played by Greg Sestero, because he has this kind of indie fame where everyone knows him, and he's kind of like a hero now as an actor. Like something like that. I was really expecting them to do that and not. But I really like this. I really like this movie. I like the idea. It really feels a lot more like an older Puppet Master movie. And it feels a lot more like something that, you can call a Puppet Master movie. Like Blade the Iron Cross, I don't even like calling it a Puppet Master movie, because it doesn't feel like one. This movie actually returns to form. The music is so close to what it used to be in the original. You have all this classic music that comes in at certain points, and it feels so nostalgic and so cool that they actually used the music, and they did it right. And and so this movie, it's basically about this woman who works at a nursing home, and it's exactly what you'd expect in terms of, it's a very simple plot. It's a very bare movie, but in a good way. It really feels like they wanted to make this more like a Puppet Master movie. So I find it ironic that the Retro Puppet Master sequel feels more like a Puppet Master movie than the Blade movie that they just made. I would have expected it to be the other way around. And so she works there, and people are dying off at this old age home. And then at the same time, you have these characters who she works with. You have this collector guy who likes to take items from old people when they die and then sell them off. You have this slutty girl who's kind of like the typical horror movie slutty character. And then the main character, she is a lot like a typical final girl, but she is pretty likable in ways that, I'll talk more about in the rankings and in the Jones Awards. That's just a little hint, and I think that you guys get what I'm saying. And she's really actually pretty good. Usually in these movies, I hate these boring, awful final girl characters, like that girl in X. That boring blonde girl who's just like so boring and so generic and so like just seen this a million times. Or the girl in Terrifier 2. Just talk about boring and dull. But then you have this one, and she's very unique, and she's very personable, and so I thought that they did a good job with that. In terms of Dr. Death, I do kind of miss the blue surgeon outfit that he wore in Retro Puppet Master, but I do like the new outfit that they gave him. They're just trying to sell toys with that. And the movie is basically a slasher. It's just he kills a bunch of people, and then at the end she kind of battles against him. There is a really creative thing that happens at the end where Dr. Death takes the head of the retirement home and he turns him into like a life-size version of himself, and then he gets inside the guy and he puppets his body around. And I actually thought that that was really cool because it felt like, finally like kind of a new-ish idea. They kind of had the human puppets in the second one a little bit with the people, and then the third one with the green serum that they'd inject into dead bodies. But I really felt like this was a nice little fun idea that they added, and I liked it a lot. And finally they had what I think was the best part of the movie, where the twist is that the main girl, she is related to the guy who got turned into Dr. Death, the puppet. And I thought that that was so cool because it felt like wow, like she really isn't a typical Final Girl character after all. She came there so that she could watch all these people die off, and so that she could help her relative find his friends. And so that excited me too, because I really hope that this movie gets a series. I hope that, honestly, this series has a lot of potential. It has so much more potential than that awful Blade the Iron Cross. And I really hope that they continue this, and I hope that they keep on with the way that this movie feels. It feels so much more like a Puppet Master. There were only a few flaws. I just thought in general, it could have, I want to see more stop motion. I want to see more creative kills. The kills were not very creative except for like one or two of them, and it really just kind of felt like everything was expected except for the end. So, and then the atmosphere. The atmosphere was the biggest problem, because I didn't really feel like this was a retirement home. To me, this whole place looked like a dentist office, and they even had this sign at the front of the office where it said like "smile wide" or something, and it felt like, wow, this is a dentist type of sign. This is not a sign you'd have in a nursing home or something. So, and it had the typical thing too, where you go to this facility and there's hardly anyone there, although it felt more realistic because it was a smaller place. It just, I don't know, like it felt like the atmosphere was off, even though the music and everything made the movie feel like a Puppet Master movie. I was really missing the shadows. I was really missing the dark, dreary, shadowy atmosphere that the original movies had. Just even thinking about the Puppet Master 2, I think it's the opening of the movie where the puppets dig up Toulon from the grave and they inject him with the serum. That was like a classic horror movie scene, and comparing that with this movie where everything is just, the lighting is very similar. It's very normal, and I don't think that should have been the case. And the last thing I'd like to mention before I give a food review is, funnily enough, there's this part where the male nurse who likes to collect things from the old people, he's walking through this room, and he walks by a box. And there's all these boxes in this room, and you can clearly tell that this is like the storage room of the production, and it's made abundantly clear by one of the boxes saying, it's so embarrassing that this would be in a movie like this, just because you can see it clear as day. I'm not zooming in hardly. You can clearly see that this says set dress dolls. You can see this like loud and clear on this box, It is so hilarious that they kept this in the movie. It just shows the downgrade in quality that Full Moon has gotten to. That they have this. I mean, their movie is only an hour long. And you think if you're just making this hour-long movie that, you can handle, like, editing it and noticing, oh, look, maybe I should crop this shot so that you don't see set-dressed dolls. And the writing looks really sloppy, and it looks like, it's so funny. Like, it's so funny. And I bet you can see writing on other boxes, too, if you really look. So, I thought that was funny. Overall, I really liked the movie a lot. It felt like watching the older Puppet Master movies. So, there was this time where I used to go to McAllister's Deli every week. It was kind of like a cheat meal. And one of the things that I would get there was their chocolate spoon cake, which is something that, everyone complains. Why did you take that off? And I used to get that every time as the dessert. And it disappeared off the menu along with the other things that I like to eat there. And so guess what? I stopped going there. And I said, fuck you. I'm not going here anymore to get food that I don't like. You guys took off the food that I like, and so bye-bye. Well, in 2021, when I was filming the Super Dumbasses mockumentary, we went to Weber Grill in Indianapolis, and miraculously enough, they had the chocolate cake from the deli. And so I guess they ordered their chocolate cake from the same place, and it was perfect. It was exactly like how I remember. It was very fun to get that and to be surprised like that. It felt like the ultimate payoff, even though the whole trip was a bust because for some reason the restaurant we wanted to go to isn't open on Mondays, which is just bizarre all of in itself. But that's what I would rate this movie. The chocolate spoon cake that I had at Weber Grill in 2021. Who knows if they still have it? Hopefully they do, because it's really good. I mean, I don't know why anyone would get rid of that. And the whole meal was pretty good as well. I mean, I told you guys how good. If you ever go to Weber Grill restaurant, they have ribs that are so good that I ate all of them. Like, I cleaned off the whole bones, which I never do when I eat ribs. Like, they were the greatest ribs in history, these Weber Grill ribs. Next up, I watched Weird, the Al Yankovic Story. This was a movie that I actually replaced. I was supposed to go see The Whale, but it wasn't around, and I felt too sick to go. So anyway, I just thought I'll go ahead and watch this instead. It's a short movie. It'll probably be okay. And it was exactly what I thought it would be. It's okay. It's not the greatest movie. It's not the worst movie. It's just very kind of odd. It's sort of like a spoof on biopics, which I wasn't expecting. I was just expecting his life story with comedy mixed in. But instead, it feels more like he just wanted to parody other biopics. And to me, that's where the movie really went wrong, was thinking that we came there to see a parody when we came there, to see his life story. And I might be more harsh to the movie just because, biopics are some of my favorite types of movies. You have horror movies, comedies, and then biopics. Biopics are very good. You have a movie like Pawn Sacrifice. You have a movie like, not necessarily a biopic, but 8 Men Out, the movie about the baseball cheating scandal in the 20s. That is an incredible, masterful movie. Quiz Show. All these movies that are just really, really good. It's not like biopics are just all bad and they're all like, cliche and typical. Like, there are a lot that are really by the numbers, or paint by the numbers, like, the music ones like that Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff like that. But, there's lots of unique ones that are out there. And so, this movie being a parody, it kind of lowered the quality a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I liked about the movie. I thought that there were some genuinely funny moments. I really loved, there's a scene in the movie where he goes to this pool party, and you see all these celebrities, and they're all playing different people from the past. Like, there's this one guy, he's playing Pee-wee, and you got Jack Black, and he's playing this other guy. And so I thought that scene was really cool and really funny. And I really enjoyed the first half of the movie. The second half was when I really didn't like it, because in the second half entered the character of Madonna. And Madonna's character was just the worst, because the whole story turned into like a romance with them where she's using him, and it just became really silly. And so I really didn't like the second half compared to the first, where it felt more like, watching the up and coming rise of this person who makes parody songs. I wouldn't say the movie's the worst in the world, but it's definitely not as good as Dr. Death. To make a comparison, if you guys have ever seen, Paul Rudd did this movie, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a parody on other Hallmark movies, and that's all it is, and that's what this movie reminded me of. I really did like Daniel Radcliffe's performance, though. I'm glad that he's still acting and that he's trying to do new things, because I really think that he's a good actor, and I think that, he's not just going to be known as Harry Potter, because he's really good. And so, you can separate him from that, and I think that it is working what he's trying to do. I did not really see Harry Potter in this movie, so I felt like that was good. With a lot of other actors, no matter how hard they try, they just can't separate themselves from whatever role that they're most known for. In terms of food, I would rate this movie. There was a song in this movie about bologna. Well, there was the first time I ever had bologna, and I don't eat bologna at all. I only had it basically this one time, and maybe once or twice after that. There was a whole container in the refrigerator, and it was like a Saturday or Sunday morning, and it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got up early, and I ate a bologna sandwich. And this was back when I wouldn't really eat the same breakfast. I would eat like a random thing that's just there. I'd eat leftovers, I'd eat like lunch and dinner type foods. Well, I had bologna with cheese and mustard or mayonnaise on bread. Or no, I didn't have any sauce at all. I just had it on bread. And then I got a Pepsi, because there was this pack of mini Pepsis on the ground. I got one of those. I sat at the computer and I watched this true crime episode. It might have been an Unsolved Mysteries, and it was all about this guy with a mustache who got locked up in a freezer. And I just sat there and ate the bologna sandwich, and I thought, this is pretty good. And so guess what I did? I ate the entire package of bologna. I ate an entire package, just making bologna sandwiches over and over again, and I drank the entire pack of Pepsis. And so that's what this movie reminded me of, and as soon as I finished doing it, I was like, why did I do that? Like, that wasn't good. That wasn't even great. That was just terrible. And so that's what this movie was. It was like something that it seemed like it was kind of fun, but then it wasn't. So now we have Puppet Master Revival. This is a fan film. This isn't even an official, like a film. This is a fan film. And it was light years better in terms of quality than the majority of films that came out in 2022. This was made by true fans, and it was made by people who took the Puppet Master franchise seriously. They basically destroyed Full Moon. I mean, Dr. Death was good, but Puppet Master Revival was great. You can watch this movie for free on YouTube. Despite a couple of flaws, I would say the biggest flaws were just some of the acting. From some of the people just kind of felt just bad acting. Other than that, this movie was really, really good. It was one of the best movies that I saw the whole year. And in fact, I could even put it at number one because it was just so good. It was so much like what I thought. This is what a reboot of Puppet Master should be like. Not that Littlest Reich bullshit where just for 2 hours they say, the puppets are Nazis, the puppets are Nazis, the puppets are Nazis, the puppets are Nazis. Like, just doing that for 2 fucking hours. Like, just fuck off with that shit. Like, no, I want this. This was a true revival of the series. It was a true reboot of the series, bringing all the characters back and making it feel like something that could, something that seems realistic, in comparison to that stupid Littlest Reich movie where, God, just the more and more I think about that movie, the more and more I despise it, even though there are some good things about it. This movie just wrecks that movie. It wrecks Blade the Iron Cross. It wrecks the majority of the series. In fact, I have this movie. Let's go to my ranking of the series. Let's go there. So you have Puppet Master 3, Puppet Master 2, Original Puppet Master, and then at 4th place you have Puppet Master Revival. And then after that you have Retro Puppet Master, then you have Dr. Death, then 5 and 4, and so on. So that should show you guys how good of a movie this was. Part of what made it good was that it gave every puppet a chance to shine. When I look at all the puppets on the poster, I can tell you guys exactly what moment they shined in. I can tell you guys exactly, like, oh, this was that scene, this was that scene, that was their best scene, and all of them stuck out like, wow, they were really, really good. And I was really happy with this movie. I thought it was so professional. It was so much better in terms of production value than some of the movies that came out in 2022. Like, Amityville Karen. Ugh. Like, that movie was crowdfunded. It was supposed to be a professionally made movie. And it felt like it was made for like $1. Or if even that. This movie felt like it was actually made with some money. The story was pretty good. The puppets are back to being heroes. They're back to being what they were like in parts 3, 4, 5, kinda. They're not evil in this movie. The great thing about it, though, is that the movie kind of makes it... They make you realize that these puppets were never good or evil. They're just they're just slaves to their master. They have a new master in this movie, in this main guy, and he's a good guy, of course, and so they're going to be on the good side. And so I like that. I like the fact that, I always used to assume that they were evil and that they had to be turned good somehow, but no, they're just kind of neutral. They're almost tools that you can use them for good or evil, because they're stuck in these bodies forever and they can't ever get out of them. So, might as well just, go with the flow if you don't want to end up like one of the puppets that they never show anymore. That's the only thing that I will say about this movie, is that it definitely made me wish that in the sequel that they'd bring other puppets in that haven't gotten the chance to shine. Like, for some reason, nobody likes Jester. Like, I don't understand it. I don't think Jester is the greatest puppet. She hasn't really ever done anything very useful in the series. But she's always been, like, a favorite of mine. She's always been someone that I really like to see, no matter what Puppet Master movie it is. So, I hope they bring her, if they make a sequel, bring her into the series. And it's really funny, the closest comparison I make to this movie is Cobra Kai. This really feels like the Cobra Kai of the Puppet Master series. The main guy even looks like Miguel from Cobra Kai, which is pretty funny. That's what made me think of that. So I hope that they continue this series if they can. If they can't, that's fine, because this was a really enjoyable movie. And then the other thing that I'll say is, well, actually two things. So, Six Shooter, he's kind of like the star of the movie almost, which I appreciate as well. He was my favorite puppet as a kid. Now I think my favorite's Tunneler. But as a kid, it was like a tie between Tunneler and Six Shooter. But the one thing is that if you look at the guns that he has on his hands, none of them, they're all fake. None of them have, like, a place where a bullet would come out, though. You can clearly see that all of them are just one solid color. And I really wished that they would have just taken a little paintbrush, dip it in some black paint, and then go boop, 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 and just put dots on each of the guns so that it looks like there's an inside where a bullet can come out, because it did take me out of the movie a little bit when I saw that up close. And then also, the villains of the movie, it's kind of like this evil, cliche, like, organization of people who want to use the puppets for evil, and they're called Omega. Well, I really hope that in the sequel, I think that a great idea would be if you had the leader of Omega, because I guess the leader hasn't been revealed yet. They should make the leader another Full Moon Features character and connect it to the Full Moon, like, universe. I think that would actually make it even cooler. The fact that the Omega leader wouldn't just be like a random person. They would be another character who we wouldn't expect. So I think if they figure out who that could be, that would be a really great idea. In terms of food, in 2020, I got Rainbow Sherbet G Fuel. I was not very much of a fan of it, because when I drank it and I ate protein bars, it would affect the taste of the protein bars in a negative way. It would make the protein bars taste gross and sour, like the Rainbow Sherbet flavor. And so I was really not a fan of that flavor, and I ranked it very low on the spectrum of the flavors. But I decided to go ahead and get that flavor again since they don't really have any good flavors of G Fuel for sale right now. I don't know why. And I rediscovered that, like, oh wow, this is actually a really good flavor. And it was really refreshing. And I think they might have tweaked it a little bit because I don't really have that problem anymore. But the other thing that I can do is that I can just eat the protein bars and then drink the G Fuel afterwards. So I won't have that problem with the taste. Because it doesn't affect the taste of like any other food. It's just protein bars. So it must be something in the protein bars that's the problem. So the last movie that I'm going to review for the 2022 movie catch-up is Tar. Originally, I was supposed to watch RRR, but I gotta tell you guys, I got sick and tired of watching these 3-hour movies. Because Tar is like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and it feels like 2 hours and 40 minutes. It feels like this movie just goes on for a lifetime, and not in a good way. I hated this movie. I did not like it. I mean, I know what they're going for. I didn't think it was one of the worst movies of the year. But it just completely failed for me. You know, they opened the movie up with this overly long opening credits sequence. And this movie was so unnecessarily long that it actually made me think about, like, oh shit, with my movie, I'm going to shorten things down because I don't want it to be like this. I shot this opening credits sequence, and it was 12 minutes long because it was kind of like a two-part thing. You have the first half and then the second half. But now that I watched this movie, I'm gonna just use the 6-minute version, or maybe even shorten it more than that. Like this was so boring. It was so overly long. And after the opening credits sequence, which I started like getting visibly irritated watching, was this overly long interview with the main character where she's talking about music and about conductors. And I swear, guys, I thought that I was watching a Chinese movie, or I thought I was watching a foreign film, and I couldn't understand the language because I just had no idea what the fuck this character was talking about. She's like the and I was so lost. I was so confused. My head was starting to hurt because I couldn't understand what the fuck these people are talking about. I understood a little bit, but I really had trouble. Like, it was so frustrating. It was so irritating. And basically the movie is about this conductor named Lydia Tarr, and the only good thing about this movie is that Cate Blanchett gives a perfect performance. I definitely would give her an award for this performance. Other than that, I despise this movie. It's so boring. It's so uneventful. It's so predictable. You know exactly where everything's going to go. There's so many unnecessary scenes that they could have cut out. I mean, this movie just really pissed me off because it made me think, like, why did you, like, I understand not rushing things to an end because that's something that I despise as well. But why do you have to have all of these scenes in this movie? Like, you can clearly tell in this movie that a majority of the scenes could be cut out and nothing would be lost from the movie. I'm not saying that a 3-hour version of this movie shouldn't exist, I'm just saying that it really wasn't necessary for the theatrical version to be this overly long, drawn out crap. There is kind of a good scene where this idiotic student is talking about how, like, Bach is problematic because he's a white male and all this BS, and she destroys him, and that was really satisfying to watch. Other than that, it was just terrible. It was just so terrible. It was so just, ugh. It's one of those movies where it thinks that it's superior because it's not telling you what to think, and it's not showing you what's happening. It's like with that Women Talking movie where they never show any of the action happening in the story, but then they tell you about it on screen. And so they say, like, we know that we're all getting raped. We know that we're all getting abused. And it's the same type of thing for this movie, where you really don't see the abuse. You don't see anything. You don't even feel it. I mean, honestly, with this woman, the stuff that she's doing, it's like, how low priority is this? Like, honestly, just like somebody else said, if I knew about all the stuff that she did, I would still go see a Lydia Tarr concert. Like, this, it's really kind of like low priority, the stuff that they claim that she does in the movie. Like, because they don't make it like known. They don't make it very plain and out in the open. It's just all hidden away because they don't want to show anything. And so, they kind of just hint at things, and they give these little subtle suggestions of things. And it's like, this is just pretentious art house fucking shit. The fact that, like, you have these just little, it's like with LaCroix. Like, this is the LaCroix of movies. That's what I would rate this movie. It is LaCroix. We're not going to have a drink that tastes like cherry. We're just going to have a drink that has a little hint of what cherry tastes like. That's exactly what this crappy movie is. It is so, so bad. It is so, so frustrating. I would never watch it again. It made me want to stop watching all 2022 movies. I just said, okay, that's it. I'm not watching anymore. I don't want to suffer through another 3 hours of crap. I don't care. So anyways, that's the ending of my 2022 movies catch-up. And I am glad that the movie was made, though, by the way, because I do see that some people are offended by it, and they say it's anti-woman because she's a female character with flaws. And it's like, see, it just shows, like, what movies have become now. And so I am glad, at least, that they made a female character who is a flawed person. And she's not a perfect Mary Sue like all these other trash female characters, like Scarlet Witch, Rey from Star Wars, and all these other awful characters. So please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of these movies, and then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you.